Attention American poker players! Do you want to legally cash out your poker winnings to PayPal? Then head to globalpoker.com and see why it's the fastest growing site for US players. That's globalpoker.com. Have you heard about America's Card Room? Already the most trusted US online poker site since 2001, America's Card Room deals out more than 246,000 hands of real money poker every day. And right now, Poker Stories listeners can get in on a great deal. Just head over to americascardroom.eu and sign up using the promo code CPPodcast. New players will get a 100% deposit bonus up to $1,000, 20 days of free jackpot poker, and 4 entries into the $250 new depositor free roll. Don't wait. You can be playing poker online right now. Head to americascardroom.eu today and don't forget to use the promo code CPPodcast for your bonus.
Poker Stories is an audio series that features casual interviews with some of the game's best players and personalities. Each episode highlights a well-known figure in the poker world and dives deep into their favorite tales both on and off the feld.
Hello and welcome to Poker Stories, brought to you by Card Player, the Poker Authority, and hosted by me, Julio Rodriguez. This is episode number 21, featuring Upeshka De Silva, otherwise known as Pesh. Now, despite the fact that he didn't really start playing a full schedule until 2013, Pasha still managed to win 2 WSOP bracelets and bank almost $2 million in live tournament earnings. In addition to the 2 WSOP wins, Pesh also final tabled the WPT Legends of Poker main event at the Bike, and you may remember him being featured on the ESPN broadcast for his deep run in the 2015 WSOP main event, where he also made a crazy hero call against Fedor Holz. Pesh is one of those guys who just tries to outwork everyone else, and I think by the end of this podcast you'll understand just what kind of mindset you need to be a successful poker pro. So with that, here's my conversation with Pesh De Silva. I am here with Pesh De Silva, fresh off another bracelet win this summer. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing, man?
Good. You decompressed?
I'm still decompressing. I'm in the process. But yeah, it was a great summer.
How long does it take you to recover from, a 7-week grind like that?
Man, 7 weeks. Well, it's the biggest of the year, right? You never have to grind 7 weeks again.
Mm-hmm.
But
until next year.
It takes until next year. Yeah, it takes a lot out of you, because you have to just put yourself in this state of mind as you go across the summer, where like nothing's gonna get you up or down. You're just gonna keep being focused on doing your job, and then just like unwinding from that, like looking at all the messages I've missed, not responded to. That takes a little.
Yeah,
while.
life keeps going on. Bills still got to get paid.
For sure. Mom still wants to see you. Like,
yeah. You got a big checklist to take out to care of when you go home.
For sure. At least I got a big check too, though.
Yeah, that's true. But we'll get to that. Let's talk about the beginning. Born in Colombo, Sri Lanka.
Yeah,
How long were you there?
So I was there just for a little while. I was born in Colombo, but then I moved to the States when I was like 1 or 2 years old or something. My dad got a job with the USAID, U.S. Agency of International Development, and with that we were able to get like visa to come here, and then Mom got a job as a nurse, and we were able to settle down here. Okay, but what was life like back in Sri Lanka for the family? Because I know that you guys ended a 30-year civil war over there in the late 2000s? Yeah, the late 2000s. I think officially maybe 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of civil unrest going on in Sri Lanka. Like, personally, me, I don't have too much recollection of it since I moved when I was
But I'm wondering
baby.
if that's the reason why you're...
I think it was definitely one of the reasons why my parents wanted to get out of Sri Lanka, just because there was a bit of instability and lack of opportunities. Mm-hmm. But it's really like settled down a lot since 2009, I'd say. There's like really good reconciliation efforts going on in the island. So, but yeah, back in the day, it's hard to say what my mom actually ended up going through. I know my wife right now, she lived in Sri Lanka during a lot of the war, and she has like memories of like maybe a school bus or like a temple getting bombed or something, innocent kids dying and stuff. So it's crazy that that was what was going on, and really fortunate, obviously, to like find a way over here.
Yeah. So was life easy right away for you guys and your family? You went to Texas, or was that where you settled?
Well, me and my mom first moved to Virginia. She had to get a nursing degree because that was like the first like they had they really needed nurses in the country. So I think it was like the best way to get visa or get a green card was to get into that. So she studied there, and I had some aunts and uncles that moved down in Houston, and we moved down there with them. And I guess maybe since I can't remember, I was like 5 or 6. I've been in Houston.
Yeah.
Things were a little rough, I suppose. My dad had cancer. He had a couple of times. They ended up passing away in 2000.
Oh, wow.
So my mom was left with a lot of the burden to raise me and my brother. And then my brother also got cancer as well when he was pretty young. Maybe
wow.
He was like in 8th grade, so like 12 or 13 or something.
Oh, that's horrible.
But
only sibling, or?
Yeah, my only sibling. So growing up, times could be rough, you know?
Yeah.
But my mom was superwoman, so she was able to take care of us.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what were you getting into as a kid over in Katy, Texas, or Houston?
In Katy, Texas? I mean, Katy, Texas is great. I used to just, normal kid stuff, play outside with your friends. I never played at too many organized sports. I used to like to play basketball. I wrestled in high school a little bit. Play a little bit of tennis, but I like to play video games a lot. I was actually pretty competitive at some video games.
Yeah, which ones?
I was really good at Warcraft 3.
Okay.
And
but you weren't like going to like Japan to compete in Korea and stuff, right?
No, I wanted to though. Like I would see like Doug Polk, crushing, but I would actually. I was also really good at World of Warcraft. I did go to the World Series of video games for that in Dallas one year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Big top prize in that.
Oh, it was funny. It was like a 64 team bracket and like top 8 pay, and we essentially bubbled it because.
Oh, okay. Round of 16. That's not bad.
Basically, yeah.
Sweet 16 is celebrated in college basketball.
Yeah, we at least put a good decent effort, so you could be proud of that.
What was school? The plan for school?
So growing up in Katy, I never really had too many ambitions. Like when poker was on TV when I was 16 and 17, I just like fell so in love with it. It was all I really wanted to do, but I didn't really have a plan for it. I didn't really play online. I just read a bunch of books. So when I was going to college, I didn't really care, to be honest. I just picked a topic I liked in school. I liked history and political science. So
where'd you go to school?
Well, I went for 1 year to University of Texas, San Antonio. Then I transferred to University of Houston.
Okay.
Finished out my degree there. And like I said, when I was 18, 19, I would go play these cash games, go, broke up and down. And
wait, but where in Texas are you playing these cash games?
In San Antonio or Houston. There's a lot of underground action.
Really?
So much. I mean, the World Series of Poker should really be in Houston, Texas.
Well, I mean, it's called Texas Hold'em.
Yeah,
for a
that's
reason.
the biggest shame. It's like one of the biggest exports from Texas to the rest of the world. Like, it's crazy. If you think 10, 15 years ago, there's so many countries in this world that never heard of Texas Hold'em.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's getting played in home games in every single country in the whole world.
Yeah.
In Sri Lanka, there's cash games, like, it's crazy.
Oh, you can't just glaze over these private Texas games unless you're still playing them and you don't want to get kicked out.
Well, I mean, I used to play a bit smaller games, so there weren't anything too glamorous. Maybe some 1-3s or 2-5s. Actually, I met Rob Salaburu playing those games. He's one of my first friends in poker.
Former November Niner.
Yeah, also crazy person. Yeah.
So, what you said, you're still in a young man in college.
Yeah, and I had
history major.
Yeah.
Just playing online like crazy?
Well, I wasn't playing online at all, actually. I'd given up poker in general, and I was going to go to law school. And my last semester of college, I met this guy, Skillville. It was Melanie Weisner's brother, actually. Mm-hmm. He was like one of the best online players in Houston. I met him just playing like a home game, some small cash game. I didn't really play seriously anymore. I was just a huge poker fan.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, you're actually pretty good. I'll back you to play some small stakes online. And since then, it went really, really well until Black Friday.
Yeah.
Black Friday happened when I was in... actually, I was in Peru playing at LAPT that I had won like a small satellite for. And Black Friday happened while we were there. And I was finishing college that following summer. So I was planning to go play poker, but now I didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was like a pretty scary moment, actually. I really didn't want to go to law school because I really love poker, and doing something that you like, when you have something else that you love, like putting it on the back burner kind of hurts.
Yeah.
So it was pretty bad spot, but I got pretty fortunate to get a situation where some players would like move me out of the country and back me, and I could play for them. So.
All right, but I want to go back to you first start playing poker. What was the initial draw to you?
Well, for the initial draw, I would play with home games with my friends after school every single day.
It was just like the moneymaker effect, and everyone was.
It was something about the moneymaker effect. And when you're playing, it's just such a social game. I mean,
Yeah.
I think this is one of the biggest draws to it is that you got to like play with your friends. You guys talk shit to each other. You know, you can. It appeals to any demographic. You know, we play with my friends, and their little sister might join in, or their grandpa, or their mom or dad.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like a really fun competitive game, and anybody, it was up to you how good you wanted to get, which is what really appealed to me. I remember the day it changed for me. I was losing like for 3 months playing $5 games with my friends, and I was sick of it. I was driving home from school, and I just drove to a bookstore this day. I remember it, and I was like, I'm gonna buy the first poker book I see. I go there, and they have Super Systems, and like I go home and I read. It's a pretty big book, and I read it in like the next 2 days. I'm obsessed. I go back, buy all the books I can find, and then like I just beat my friends relentlessly until since then.
I mean, Super System's a thick book to get through in 2 days. So props to you.
That's kind of what I knew. I was like, this is because no book in school ever made me like process information that quickly. I was never that driven to, you know.
Yeah.
But when you have a passion for something, you just devour it.
So so you have that passion, you start studying like crazy. Where do you find out about these private games? Is there I mean, do you have to know somebody? Is there a secret
private
handshake and a knock you have to know?
Usually you get in through the person, let's say if you're like on the bottom of the ladder, how you're going to get into is by the person you know who's best at poker or most into poker. They'll usually have a connection. Okay. And that's how it happened for me. I met a kid in San Antonio that was like a bit better than me at the time, and he had a couple of connections to these games. So I think that's generally how people get into it.
He vouches for you.
Yeah, he vouches for you, and then
you're in, and then you could bring someone in. Maybe.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, and they're always looking for players because they over-rig the hell out of every pot. So yeah.
But it didn't go well for you.
Well, to be honest, I was probably breaking even, but I would always run up the roll and play the best guy in the house, which was like either Salaburu or this other guy, Matt Harris, and but it was just like. It was just one of those big leaks that you have when you first get into poker. The ego is just there's just so much of it. And I was just so emotional that at that time when I was 18, 19, I just couldn't handle it. And to be honest, I think I'm a little lucky that I didn't have a lot of success because that might have probably wouldn't have been able to steered into a productive career. You know.
Yeah. And who knows if you had found success right away, you might not have finished school and had that.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a backup plan.
For sure, it was nice to be able to finish and just chase it without any worries in the back of my head, you know?
Yeah. All right, so you're getting ready to finish college. Law school is a possibility that you're not really looking for. What does mom think of you playing poker?
So, as I was growing up, my mom kind of didn't like. She would always when we were playing at home, she'd ask us "You're not playing for money, right? Don't be playing for money." We'd lie, obviously, but. She didn't like it, but she could see the passion I had for it. So after I graduated college, she wanted to make sure I graduated. Then she was like, "Look, take some time off, do what you want to do, take a year, and if you're successful, you can keep doing it. If not, maybe go to law school." And then my first year, I did pretty well, so I was pretty happy about that.
That was 2013?
2012. It was the first year I would say I started playing professionally.
Okay, and what were you mainly focusing on at that time?
So because. Poker had been around for so long, and I went to go play online poker in Mexico, and I knew I had to catch up. There was 4 or 5 years where I didn't really play the game seriously, and I was gonna need to close this gap. So I focused on just studying from every player I met. There were usually in Mexico. There was a really good.
Were you in Rosarito?
Initially, we were in Cabo.
Okay.
There was probably 150 players that moved to Cabo, so the community there was really good for learning. Yeah. And I knew this year was my shot, so I played almost every single day. Played maybe 330 days out of 360. And every day I wasn't playing, or whenever I would finish my session, I would just go sit by somebody and watch until I fall asleep, And I was happy to do it, which was great. Every day I would just go to sleep with a smile on my face just because I got to play. I was so happy.
Mm-hmm. So when did you start doing the live circuit and?
So I always felt like I was better at live with that, but I had online results and no live results. And then in 2013, I played my first main event in 2012. I just came out to the World Series, played it. I played a couple of small circuits, Actually, so how I got my deal with these backers that moved me to Cabo was that after Black Friday, I was selling some small packages to go play like a New Orleans circuit, a Miami circuit, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the first 3 packages I sold, I had success in all 3. And then the backer was one of these online guys, and he was like, "Hey, I think you're pretty good. I'll move you out there."
Yeah.
So then after I kind of cut my teeth online in 2012, I wanted to like go back to live arena. And then my first tournament at the World Series in 2013, the Millionaire Maker, I final tabled.
Yeah.
Which was very nice.
But 7th place?
Yeah, I took the worst beat in my career, and I'll never forget it.
I want to hear it.
It is the highest equity pot I've ever lost. This is so gross. I had so we're 7 people left in the Millionaire Maker, right? Mm-hmm. I had 50% of myself. I have no makeup. This would be a huge score for me, right? It already is.
Yeah.
When I'm coming in 7th. And I have like 21 bigs or 22 bigs, and I'm in the cutoff. And I have pocket jacks. I'm probably like 4 of 7 or 3 of 7 as far as chips go. And first place is like 1.3 million. It's something insane.
Wait, let me just mention the names at this final table because it's pretty stacked. Benny Chen, Justin Liberto, both bracelet winners. Dan Kelly, bracelet winner. Chris Honeychin, or Unikin, as they've been calling him all summer for some reason. Yeah, this was a stacked final table.
For sure. It was, I thought, way tougher than expected in a tournament like the Millionaire Maker with 7,000 runners. But, so yeah, Justin Liberto was chip leader at the time, and I raised jacks in the cutoff, 22 big blinds. He goes all in from the small blind. He's chip leading. I call. He has 7-8 offsuit. Board run. This is for chip lead too. Board runs out King Jack 9 6 5.
6-5. That's the dirtiest way for it to come.
6-5. It was so dirty, and it was so dirty. I was walking out. His dad came up to me and apologized.
That's funny. I interviewed Justin. He didn't mention his dad was being the goodwill ambassador for his beats. Well, I'm glad you were able to bounce back.
For sure. I mean, it was still a great result.
Still 175,000. You're off and running.
Yeah,
a nice
absolutely.
little kickstart to the bankroll. From there, what was the plan? To just hit the circuit hard or go back online? Or?
Yeah, well, actually from there, I got it. Staking was like a really popular thing in 2012, 2013. I tried my hand at staking and coaching and stuff, and it just ended up being a terrible, terrible experience. And I lost a bit of money, a lot of time and effort. So in 2014, the little bit of money I had, I kind of got back on the grind by myself without my horses. Mm-hmm. And what was crazy?
What went wrong with the staking? Was it just a bad play, or
I think it's a lot of common problems. A common thing is that I feel like players that aren't fully briefed, that aren't like long-time professionals, when you start backing them in a certain stake and they maybe lose a bit of money and you have to drop them stakes, some players will adapt to this, some players really don't like this. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to get it, and they won't play good at these lower stakes. And you can't just keep throwing them in high stakes just to hope you get your money back. This is kind of a problem. They were a bit unmotivated at the lower stakes. And then even one horse, he was in like a good bit of makeup to me. And after he was so unmotivated, I caught him playing tournaments on his own. I just found him in a tournament and he told me he wasn't playing kind of thing. And he had all of his own action. He was backing himself kind of thing. So
that's messed up.
For sure. But, I'm sure this happens to lots of people.
Yeah.
And what happened to me was for just, not too much money. So I guess I see it as a cheap lesson.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't back your friends. One lesson, and just don't do it in general, I'd say.
Well, we're talking about staking. You said it was kind of a thing in 2012, 13, 14. Has it been dying off? I mean, there's still...
I would say the staking market has changed dramatically. From in 2012, 2013, if you had any sort of online results or were any sort of good, you could probably get a backing deal that was way advantageous to the player with no cap on makeup, no restrictions, and over that. But then lots of backers went broke. Lots of people lost a lot of money, and then nowadays you see the rise of well-oiled stables that run companies. They have coaches, they merge all their hands, so they have all this data about it, about what their horses are playing. They get them to play a lot lower stakes than people did it back in the past. They only play the best value tournaments. So it's just it's like a hedge fund is now running the game.
Yeah.
They're just more professional about it, which I guess is the natural progression of it.
I mean, there's a big stable that everyone knows about, that
BBZ?
everyone talks about. But how many of them are there, if you would have to guess?
I mean, I would think BBZ has over 100 people they back, maybe over 200.
But how many even just
Backers?
Backers, like, are out there?
I'd imagine it's a fund between, like, anywhere between 2 to 6 people. That's my guess.
No, I'm sorry. Different groups.
Oh,
how many of those groups are out there funding the poker world is my point.
I see. So there's you have all sorts of different backers.
Could you break down, like, the typical WPT main event or something into, like, 8 groups of backers, you know?
So it's interesting. Live backing and online backing are a bit different. Live backing, I'd say, is a lot less commonplace than online backing. And so let's say, like, you take, like, a 3,500 WPT in Miami or something. Mm-hmm. I would say, like, of the tournament, let's say there's 800 players, there's probably, like, 300 to 400 regulars or 500 regulars. And maybe, like, 60% of them sell their action in some capacity or are backed, I would imagine.
So more than half of the regs.
I would think so.
And then you have the other half is made up of rich guys and satellite winners.
Yeah, rich guys, satellite winners, longtime fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy, that much, huh?
I mean, I could be way off on this, but I would imagine it's something like that. Mm-hmm. Versus if you look 10 years ago, almost nobody sold or swapped or backed, and, you know.
Well, what about you? What's your preference? I mean, would you prefer to have it all on you and be on your own dime, or?
So if you can afford it, absolutely. Let's say I went broke today, I would get backed because I would want to be able to play the same stakes that I'm able to beat for the most money. And now if you don't have the money to do that and you're used to playing higher stakes, you're gonna have to drop stakes and grind your way back up. And if it's not something you want to do or you're focused on doing, you're not going to be able to do it because it's difficult.
Yeah.
Beating low stakes and moving up is not an easy thing, no matter how good you are.
Mm-hmm.
So, I personally right now I'm on my own, and I just sell action for the higher variance events, like for the 10K 6 max, for example. I sold a little bit, and I think it's a good practice. You should know your skill level, know your bankroll. Live MTTs are very, very high variance. Talk about it like a crazy way to make a living. So.
Well, that goes back to the ego that you were mentioning and how.
Absolutely, this is a huge thing. So many people don't want to fire maybe get 400 at the Venetian. They want to, like, get into every World Series tournament. Oh, there's a 5K today. Well, there's a 1K at the Win. You know.
Yeah.
That's a big part of ego as well as bankroll management. What you decide to play, game selection. I think there's lots of players that you might not think are like the best, the most skilled, but up way more money than some of the players you think are the best skilled, and it's because they've just made smarter choices.
Let's talk about 2015.
Sure.
Big run in the main event.
Yeah, that was a great year. It was actually, I was pretty broke at the start of the summer. Actually, I had a terrible online series. Was down a bunch of money.
Talking about scoops.
Yeah, scoops. I had like straight down like 50 or 60K or something.
Yeah. And
I was just like in a pretty bad spot. But my friend Calvin Anderson, he gave me a lot of confidence. He believed in me, and he bought a big. I sold a big package for 2015. I maybe had like, I don't know, like 7 or 8K of my own money, and I combined it with I had a bigger roll before this, but I maybe got scammed by horses in my previous backer and whatever details. We don't have to go into it. But I didn't have too big of a roll. Yeah, it wasn't because of my game selection. I promise. I'm pretty good about that. But so yeah, I won my bracelet, which was great. That 1500. Mm-hmm. That gave me a lot of confidence. And then the main event, that was.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the bracelet first. What is it? 2015. You've only really been playing seriously pro for a few years. What's it like winning a bracelet, especially a big field bracelet like that, $424,000 up top?
That was, it was incredible. Since I was a kid, I wanted a bracelet. I don't know why I wanted this shiny piece of gold.
Yeah.
I don't think it really proves anything. It's just a tournament at the end of the day, but it is very satisfying. Just showing back, there are a lot of people that don't believe you when you take this path. A lot of friends and family. I remember actually when I was a kid, my aunt didn't want me watching like World Series of Poker in front of her kids.
Really?
But now they're they all watch me and sweat me.
That's crazy.
So
the impressionable youth.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
But yeah, it was just a dream come true, and a big event like you mentioned. I think I've always thought that my specialty is like large field multi-table tournaments, and before I won it, the 1500, I told my friends I'm going to win at 1500. Like, this is what I'm best at. I'm going to focus on it, and it was really satisfying to do it.
Yeah, well, what do you think the field difference is in those 1500s versus like the 10K 6 max which you brought up? Is it really that big of a difference?
You have huge differences in terms of obviously the structure and the stack depth, that's going to dictate a lot different play. And then the lower buy-in obviously attracts a lot more amateurs. So I mean, you look at something like a random 1500 this summer has 2,000 people. 10K 6 max gets 300, right?
Yeah.
The 200 best players are playing both.
Yeah,
And then what's the other 1,600 players, right? Usually, and amateurs typically have lots of things you can exploit. A lot of professionals, whether they're good or bad, they're like plus or minus a little bit, and it's hard to get their chips for the most part. But amateurs give them away, and there's lots of ways you can exploit it that are not conventionally GTO or whatever. But like, if you're good at that, you can really get a huge edge in these tournaments that people think don't have such good structures. You shouldn't be able to have that high of a return, but I think I have a winning recipe for it.
So wait, just getting a little bit into strategy here. When you're playing these big, minefield tournaments like a 1500 with several thousand people, and you saying that you're not really using GTO strategy to get these chips because these people are leaking them. So what are you doing? Is it a combination of live reads, or is it putting pressure on people when they just look uncomfortable?
So it's interesting. I feel like a lot of people might go into a tournament like this and want to do a lot of fancy stuff, but I think the best thing is just always play according to what your table is going to let you do. And so if one of these things you get a very, very soft table, you have to know in which way is it soft. Are these guys very tight, so they play their value hands very face up, so we never have to pay them? Are they always calling us down, so we can just bet larger and never have to bluff? Just things like this, and noticing quickly. Showing up early is a thing a lot of pros don't do, but I think those pre-ante levels, it's not about winning huge pots, it's about getting a feel for your opponents. And some players that are playing way too loose pre-ante, you can really exploit very, very hard. There's a lot of players that register the tournament that aren't capable of making it past 5 levels.
That's true.
So you have to get in there early to catch those guys.
That's a good way to think about it.
There's a myriad of ways you can exploit a lot of people. So many people have so many tells they're not aware of. Because in reality, if you're not balancing every single action of your own, you're giving away information. Now, if this is perceivable by your opponents or not is up for debate. And then some people give off such extreme stuff, even some regs will do some stuff that you'd be surprised if you just try talking to them. I don't know. There's a million different ways you can approach exploitation, I suppose.
Well, there's a debate right now in the poker world over what's more difficult to win, especially as it applies to like POI races, especially at the series. There's some people in one camp who say it's harder to win a small field 10K than it is to win a massive field 1500. And the argument seems to boil down to this. It takes a little bit of luck to win the 1500 because it's such a massive field. Right. But luck is very hard to get. So is it harder to win a 1500 than a 10K?
It's just the sheer amount of luck you need in the 1500 is just going to make it a much harder tournament to win than the 10K, just because you have to win so many more flips, so many more double ups to actually end up accumulating enough chips to make up for like the more players in the tournament.
But my devil's advocate argument would be, me as a player, I have a shot at winning a 1500. It would take a lot of luck. I would need to run like God for sure, but I could win a 1500. But I don't think I could ever win a 10K.
See, this is a common misconception. People think, you got all these like wizards that are playing super boss and they're just going to destroy me. And the idea is, the thing is, everybody's getting 2 cards. And if you just sit down there and you play your game, you actually have a higher chance of winning the 10K, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. A 10K with 300 people, you have a much higher chance than winning a 1500 with 2,000 people, even if you're significantly worse than your opponents. You would have to be like 4 times worse than your opponents or something to make the other case true. So and you're just not, is the case,
Well, I appreciate the pep talk. I'm feeling good. I'm a little fire now.
There you go.
You win your bracelet. That's awesome. And then obviously you go deep in the main event. Finish 36 for another 211,000. Life-changing summer, I imagine.
Yeah, that was great. That was the summer that really gave me the bankroll to where I could, pursue my career in the way I wanted to, play the tournaments I wanted to. Yeah. On the schedule that I wanted to. So that was great.
You had a pretty crazy hand with Fedor Holz in the 2015 main event. If you haven't seen it, for those listeners, go Google it. Fedor, Upeshka, 2015 WSOP. It's a crazy hand. Yeah. I say that you may have delayed the Fedor rush for about a year by doing so.
nothing could stop the Fedor rush.
Or maybe you caused it.
Yeah, actually, I think I might have
caused
caused it because right after that he goes on doing those two, like the 100K in Bellagio and the 200K in Manila.
For those that don't know, Fedor opens 8-7 suited. You 3-bet with Ace King. You flop an ace, and the board gets progressively awful the entire way down. And then you make an amazing call for your tournament life. You end up being right. But yeah, you're right. What if everyone saw Fedor go nuts and he's just been being paid off huge on his big hands ever since?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's actually a really good person at knowing the image people have of him and how information affects that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, hats off to him. I'm sure he made good advantage of that, or all of his bluffs in general.
Yeah.
I remember when they were doing an interview with us, like during that main event, while that table's going on, there was like, oh, anything you'd like to add? I was like, please move Fedor off of my table.
Yeah, I don't want to be put in that spot, even if you did get the best of him on that hand.
Yeah, that was a great hand. Pretty happy about it.
Check it out if you haven't seen it. I heard that you predicted you were going to win 2 bracelets.
Yeah.
So, are you done then?
Yeah, I mean, I might have capped myself. I hope I didn't. But yeah, before I went 1-1, I'd always tell people God gave me 2 wrists. So.
There's that ego.
Right, but like I said, if you want to get to the top, you have to have a little bit.
A little bit. God gave me 2 wrists. You got 2 ankles.
True that.
You can get an anklet. Yeah, so this year you come back. You have a great summer. You win your second bracelet, $3,000 no limit hold'em shootout. Yeah, what's it like being in the 2 bracelet club?
2 bracelet club is significantly different.
Yeah,
it's a much cooler club, I think.
I mean,
first off, just personally, it kind of cements your status as like a successful hold'em player, and that's very satisfying. But then beyond that, a lot of people can win 1, and just so few people can win 2.
Yeah. And
then especially no limit hold'em, it's not something that you can do, especially in the modern era of a no limit hold'em. It's very difficult to win multiple hold'em bracelets. So, yeah, very very happy about it.
I heard you almost didn't even play that event.
Yeah, it was crazy. So the first week of the series, there was just like the Colossus and the shootout and maybe some of the smaller ones. And I was thinking about missing it, and I was like, no, I really wanted to play the shootout. I love shootouts for years. I've never had any results in them, and I've played like a couple of 2K online shootouts, and I played the 1500 and 3K at the World Series last 2 years. But yeah, so I was going to the airport to fly from San Diego to Las Vegas. It's like a 1-hour flight, and I was gonna land at 10:30, and then my flight from Spirit Airlines is delayed 4 hours, and I'm like, I could drive faster, but I just on the Uber to the airport, I book a different flight and show up there like to late reg for just 5 minutes straight from the airport to the Rio.
Wow.
And I won my table in like 3 hours or 4 hours, so that was really nice. Yeah.
Straight off the plane. Finishing the money.
Yeah. It was a really good hourly. I remember it because it was like, I think I played 5 hours in the first 4 hours in the first table, like 5 or 6 on the second table, and like 5 or 6 on the third. So like 230K for 19 hours is pretty solid.
Wow, that actually, when you break it down by hour, that tournament flies.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. We're gonna do some rapid fire questions at this point.
Sure.
Tell us about your first big live tournament experience. Do you remember where it was? What the buy-in was?
Yeah, my first big live tournament was the main event.
You had to have played tournaments before.
Oh,
right?
I played like maybe a smaller World Series circuit. Actually, yeah, I played a 1600 circuit in Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah, back when I was like 21 or so.
Mm-hmm. And how did it go? Do you remember being nervous at all?
I remember being very nervous. I had to satellite in first of all because it was 1600. I didn't have the roll for this, so I would like satellite in for 150 or something. And I'm like so pumped the night before, and then I would just I play like a crazy bastard, so I just bust pre-antes almost every time in these tournaments. I mean, that was before I got a bit more discipline. But yeah, I just remember being very, very psyched, and then tournament poker, roller coaster of emotions, felt depressed and terrible afterwards.
What's the worst bad beat that you ever put on anybody?
I remember this is against Tim Riley in the 5K last year. I got in my pocket sixes pre-flop against his pocket kings. Mm-hmm. This is on day 1, so it's not too much, but the run out sick. It comes king 9-10, 6, and then I flick up my sixes to where they land up right where the river's gonna land. Another 6 falls down.
Really?
Yeah, it all happened like a movie. It was sick.
You mean you throw your
Yeah.
core cards?
Yeah, when the 6 falls on the turn, I like throw my cards right where like the river's gonna be, and I go one more. Like I say 6 or something like this.
Yeah.
There's another falls right there.
Oh, did he take it well?
I hope so. I took like a lap and I cheered a little bit. It was a bit unsportsmanlike, but he's like the nicest guy. So
yeah, I mean, when you come from behind like that, especially if it's early in a tournament,
yeah, it was.
You could be forgiven a little bit of a fist pump.
Yeah. Plus, I'm a pretty nice guy with most players, so I don't think he took it too bad.
Can you talk about the biggest pot you've ever won or lost?
Do you mean like chip-wise, or I guess cash?
Equity or cash, I guess? Doesn't matter.
Biggest pot I ever won, equity-wise.
Well, you talk about the biggest one you ever lost and the Millionaire Maker.
Yeah, that's easily the biggest one I ever lost. And then the biggest one I ever won might have been the hand against Fedor.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one
that
kind of vaulted you up there. That
stack's probably worth like maybe $1 million or something. So.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy.
Or maybe $700K at it. A lot.
Toughest time of your career?
Toughest time of my career would be the end of 2014 to the middle of 2015, where like I lost my backer. My backer had kind of scared me for a little bit. I was on my own and I didn't have that big of a role, and I was on this crossroads where like you either had to get better or die and go do something else.
Yeah.
And the game was really shifting over 2014, 2015, where everybody got better across the board online. So many leaks that were there for the last 15 years disappeared. People started defending the big blinds better. People stopped folding off their equity so frequently. 3-betting better ranges, opening better ranges, all this stuff and so my strategy over the last couple of years was not so effective. So I had to like break it down, get better, get with a new group of people that were like on the up and up, and study with them. And that's what I had to do, and it worked.
So what goes into studying and learning or retraining your brain to think differently at the table?
I think first off, you have to like drop your ego and tell yourself it's not about what I think is right, it's about what is right. And be open to other perspectives. Surround yourself with players that you think are better than you or equally as good.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think you can just talk. Talking is definitely good. When I was younger, I read a lot of poker books, so I have a good foundation of math for like how this stuff works or how you're supposed to make your decisions. I think if you haven't read books, this is one of the best things you can do. Is even if you might know 95% of the information in a lot of these books, just knowing how you derive these answers is very important.
Yeah.
And then the thing in the modern era is like there's like more complex programs, simple post flop, PO solver that can really tell you like what's most profitable in every situation against like.
I think what the average public has trouble understanding is how these solvers apply when you're just sitting at the World Series of Poker table. Like, what are you memorizing these spots?
So that's the thing. A lot of people don't know how to apply this information. So there's really, really good information in these solvers, but like you said, they're almost useless when it comes to a World Series of Poker table when the average age is 40. Nobody's played online poker, and everybody's opening 3x.
Yeah.
Like this isn't going to do you any good.
Exactly.
But there are general trends you can learn from looking at simple post. Let's say you look at PO solver. It might tell you like with the range of hands, how many big blinds each one earns given whatever decision you choose to make, and you can see like, oh, actually if I on this flop it wants you to lead gut shots, and you might never have thought, oh, I would usually check fold my gut shots and check raise them sometimes, but actually leading 20% with gut shots in certain boards is winning a lot of money, or winning more money than just check folding it.
Yeah.
So, and you just kind of see trends like this where one of the biggest trends I saw is that find a way to like finding bets that can let you realize equity with your hands more frequently. And this example is leading. Just leading in general is a concept that people haven't been doing, that these solvers kind of showed you have a lot of viability. But that's just one example. There's tons of trends you can pick up from these things.
So this is just, but it's mostly memorization of these trends, right?
Sure, yeah. I think just plugging in a lot of different situations. Because for PO solver,
you're not doing math at the table is my point.
No, not too much. I mean, beyond the simple like pot odds kind of stuff. You know, the most math I do, let's say on a big river decision, like against the hand against Fedor, I'm just breaking down ranges, and I'm thinking, okay, so he can't have this and this. He could have this, so there's 6 combos of this. I block this, so there's 5 combos of this, or whatever. You know, adding up the combos, adding up the value combos versus the bluff combos. Then you look at that in relation to the pot odds you're being offered, and if you get a favorable ratio, you make the call. So,
yeah, it's that simple.
That simple, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure everyone caught that explanation, but if anything, they understand that the data works. What? I don't know how much of a prop bettor you are, but best degen story?
I'm not too much of a prop bettor, but I have, let's say, best degen story. A cool one is that one time me, Rob Salabaru, Kyle Julius, and Ben Lamb split like a small bankroll to gamble with. It was like $300 each. It was like 5 of us, so we had $1,500. And in like the first minute, we're down to $100. And Ben's like, "Okay, I'm gonna
Playing
go."
what?
We were playing like blackjack or something.
Okay.
And then he goes to the high limit room, blackjack. He has $100. In the next 15 minutes, we have like $45,000. And Ben Lamb's just a crazy, crazy person.
This is Ben that did that?
Yeah. He knows how to bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very good at it.
Man, congrats to Ben.
Yeah.
Another crazy summer. All right, favorite thing about being a poker pro?
There's so many favorite things. I've loved the freedom. I love the fact I never have to work under somebody I think is dumber than me. I mean, I love that the more work I put in, the better I'll get. Like, something that always made me so sad is that my mom's a nurse, and she's a great nurse, one of the best nurses. But if she does like 5 times a better job than her next coworker, she's not getting paid 5x. But if I do that, I'm getting paid 5x, you know? And that's a thing to be pretty grateful about, that you actually get rewarded for the work you get to put in.
I never thought of it that way. That's right. You could legitimately just outwork your
I mean, that's what the people
coworkers
at the top have done. They've just put in more work. Or some people have gotten lucky, but if you look at a 5-year horizon, it's the people that have put in the work.
We'll talk about that, longevity aspect of the game. You were at a crossroads a few years ago where you could have, gotten out theoretically. But what do you see out there? Are people able to do this for 20, 30 years or?
It's a really interesting question, even as far as what poker's going to look like in 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you want to be able to compete with... So there's different ways. You can see yourself as breaking even in a tournament where you're not making much money, and you don't have to put that much work into breaking even in a tournament. You can just kind of play your own game, probably do a little bit of work once a year or something. And then if you want to beat a tournament, you got to do a little... But if you want to crush a tournament, your longevity is tough because you have to stay at the top. You have to keep working, bouncing hands off, travel around the world, play online constantly. So to be at the very top, I think you have maybe like a 5 to 10 year kind of window. But then to be a profitable player, poker is great because you can do this for 50, 60 years until you die.
Is that what your plan is?
No, I have a couple of other plans. My plan always was to be able to make enough money off poker to just like retire essentially. Like I don't need too much, but like enough to like safely invest and just make a passive income where I don't have to work.
Yeah.
I'm a bit passionate about education. I'd like to teach one day. I've actually had this dream of like opening up an orphanage and like just teaching the kids. I think that'd be like really, really satisfying. And especially like poker players, you see there's so many really, really smart kids that are so fast at processing information, but the school systems that we have like estranged them. And there's so many people in general that aren't being taught as effectively as we could, not nearly as effectively. And I want to like play with different systems that could be more effective, cheaper and more effective, stick with them, teach kids how to think, not what to think.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff.
Man, it's a big task to overhaul the mess we're in right now.
Yeah, should have won the main.
Least favorite thing about the poker world? What really grinds your gears?
It can be very isolating.
Okay.
You have to give up, like, when you're in the poker world, you have your poker friends, everybody's a poker player. But when you leave this world, nobody's a poker player. And like, you can only live in one or the other. It's not like you can do both at the same time. So, like, you kind of have to give up a lot of family relations. I mean, with my wife, we definitely had a lot of hard times when I'm traveling to, like, try to have a stable relationship.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, I would probably say that's probably the more challenging aspect.
Do you plan on cutting back on travel at all, or?
I really enjoy the travel. I'd probably stop traveling so much for tournaments and maybe travel just more for fun.
Yeah.
But I still try to make like 2 or 3 good tournaments out of the States every year, I'd say.
Yeah. What's your favorite tournament destination?
World Series of Poker main event. I mean, I love playing Las Vegas, but Las Vegas in the summer obviously isn't that great.
Let's take the poker out of it.
Barcelona.
Okay.
Easy. Great city. Really, really good city. Not too expensive. looks really cool. History is incredible. Nice weather. It's like San Diego type weather.
Yeah, the casino's right on the water.
Yeah, and the tournaments get insane. It's like a mini World Series. It's like a week of the World Series in Barcelona.
Yeah. And they don't start the tournament until like late afternoon or mid afternoon.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Everyone's just taking naps all day.
Every night till 4 a.m. on that beach, there's people partying every single day. It's like, it's something you don't get to see in America, really.
That's cool. Who's the best poker player that we've never heard of?
Moritz Dietrich.
Okay, I've heard of Moritz, but
yeah.
Tell the listeners a little bit about Moritz.
Oh, my good friend Moritz Dietrich is a German poker player. He's helped me a lot with my game. And he's just a savage. I don't want to play with him personally, but he's very, very good. If I ever have like a spot that I want to, I'll run by my hands by a lot of different pros, but then there's like 2 people I'll listen to, and he's one of them. Yeah.
You're like, okay, I'm listening to you, but only so I know how not to play it.
Yeah. Or how do you think? But yeah.
Oh yeah, Moritz. He's had some results.
I mean, he should have like 10 million in tournament earnings. So yeah, I'd say he's run far below expectation, but it's coming anyways because he's so good.
It's due
for sure.
Are you a headphones at the table guy?
Sometimes I think they're good if you feel a little distracted.
What are you listening to if you do?
Right now I've been listening a lot of Kendrick. It's pretty hot.
Okay.
But I like hip hop. I feel like hip hop puts you in like a pretty dominating state of mind.
You spend your whole life in Texas. I was gonna assume some country was gonna be in there.
Mama. Hate country. Sorry, Texas.
Yeah.
Terrible music.
What else are you into these days?
I mean, I used to like a lot of rock and roll and alternative, but I'm getting a bit more into like electric, and I'm actually just a lot more open to everything. Mm-hmm. Like some French pop, some Danish rock band, whatever. Like I like it all nowadays.
What was the worst job you had before poker, and what would you be doing if it wasn't for poker?
The worst job I had before poker was I was a caterer at a restaurant in Houston, and you have to like wear all the hats in the kitchen when you're a caterer. You do like so many different things, and you don't get paid that well, and they really bust your ass for most of the time. You don't sit for like 12 hours during an event, Yeah. So it's I mean, there's definitely worse jobs, but it was the worst one I had. If I wasn't playing poker, I'd probably be a lawyer, and I'd probably hate it.
You really think you would have gone into law?
Yeah, I think it's like a natural aptitude. I think a lot of poker players have natural aptitude for it because poker is, I mean, it's just making arguments, logical thinking. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think I'd do pretty well. And I watch a lot of Law and Order too, so.
Of course, then you have all the experience you need.
Yeah.
What kind of law would you have gone into?
Shoot, that's a good question. I mean, my aunt's a lawyer. She's an immigration attorney, and she prints money.
Really?
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like family law is too depressing, and criminal law can be pretty depressing. So maybe something corporate.
I think life is too depressing sometimes.
Life can be depressing. Not when you have 2 bracelets, though.
That's true. 2 wrists. You still got 2 ankles.
There you go.
Which poker pro did you admire coming up, and did you ever get to play a pot with him or her?
Well, like I always had a soft spot for The Godfather because I read his book, and it's kind of what started my career.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's only like one person I would fanboy over, and that's Falabi. Never got to play with him.
Never?
Never got to play with him.
Yeah, he's been noticeably absent the past little while.
Yeah. Well, sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, I was just wondering, who did you look up to when you were coming up?
Who I really looked up to? I mean, when I was like 16, 17, all the cool young guys in poker, it was like Negreanu, Esfandiari, Alan Cunningham. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I looked up to those guys. I mean, they seem to like all be well ahead of the curve, crushing the game, tournament cash, whatever. Mm-hmm.
Well, you've obviously played a pot with Negreanu because he is somehow one of the stars of that hand with you and Fedor.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. I feel back. So Negreanu got a lot of shit for calling the clock that hand, I feel like. And it was very reasonable. I took like 10 minutes. And the reason in this spot, I took as much time as I was going to get. So until you call the clock, I'm going to keep thinking. If nobody called the clock, I was going to be there for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. So,
oh, yeah. The way they edited it doesn't look like 10 minutes.
Yeah. It was the most I've ever tanked on in a decision. And it was very reasonable to call the clock. But like I was already leaning towards a decision. So when he called the clock, I didn't want to psych myself out. So like they don't show this, but like as soon as they call the clock, before they even start the count, I make the call.
Again, if you haven't seen this, Google it.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool hand. A lot of unconventional stuff goes down this hand.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best hero calls I've seen in a while. All right, we always... well, first, before this, I want to get into your Twitter handle is Padawan Pesh.
Yeah.
Are you a diehard Star Wars guy?
A big Star Wars fan. I grew up watching all the movies with my cousins. But I think I should upgrade it now. I think I'm a Jedi now, maybe.
Oh, really? Jedi Pesh.
Yeah.
Well, you excited about the new one coming out?
Yeah, pumped. I still haven't seen Rogue One, though. I still need to check that out.
Really?
Yeah. It's
Man,
been a
you
minute.
really are on the road too much.
Yeah. Well, I tried to watch it. My wife fell asleep, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
some other time.
We always end the podcast the same way, with a question from the random question generator. And your question is, what is your biggest fear?
Wow, this is a real question. Damn.
I can give you a fake question.
No, that's fine. It's fine. It's good. I like.
The next one's pretty funny too.
I like a good challenge. My biggest fear would probably be something happening to my brain, or like some sort of brain damage or disease or something where I can't consciously make my own decisions anymore, where like something else is going on and I'm like, you're kind of not you anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, is that a fear that like cripples you each day? Like you're afraid to cross the street?
I wouldn't say. No. I've definitely overcome it, but it's like it's up there. Like that and like fear of losing my mom are like the highest fears, I would say.
Mine's cockroaches.
Cockroaches, that's up there for me too. Man, I hate roaches.
Those Texas bugs. Oh, you guys got some nasty stuff out there.
We got cicadas too. There's some cicadas in Vegas now. I just saw.
Oh man, I'm not a bug guy. Yeah, your other question was, if you could invent a holiday, what would it be? That's so crazy. Like, who just has that on the top of their head?
I mean, Halloween too.
Yeah, let's just do a second awesome holiday. Why isn't there a Halloween in the summer?
I know, man.
You know what I mean?
There should be 4 Halloweens.
The girls are half naked anyway.
Right. They need to theme it.
They're always so cold in October.
Right.
Anyway, Pesh, thank you so much.
Hey, no problem, man. It was
for
great.
coming to this wacky podcast.
Thanks for having me.
That's the show. Thanks again to Pesh De Silva for the conversation. You can follow him on Twitter at Padawan Pesh. There's just a handful of episodes left for season 1 of the podcast, and we have some top players lined up for the next couple months. So be sure to subscribe on iTunes if you haven't already done so, to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you've done that already and you like the show, then maybe tell your friends about Poker Stories. And if you don't like the show, then only tell your enemies. Thanks for listening. Attention American poker players! Do you want to legally cash out your poker winnings to PayPal? Then head to globalpoker.com and see why it's the fastest growing site for US players. That's globalpoker.com.